In my eCom paid ads agency, I manage $700,000 to $800,000 a month in spend for our clients, which is going to increase to about 2 million a month in Q4. And the only reason our clients trust us with over $10 million a year of their spend money is because we have amazing client results. And in this video, I am going to show you exactly how you can deliver amazing client results for your own clients. As you can see, we have a lot to go through. This is going to be a value-packed video. You're going to get all of the templates that I use in my own agency. But before we get into any of the technical stuff, I need you to understand what is actually important in delivering amazing client results, namely the fundamental principles you have to keep in mind. And that is the split between the actual media buying you are doing in the account, the technical stuff, and the content production, what you are actually putting in the ads. It's two completely different fields. They both play into amazing client results, and the split is as follows. As you can probably already see, media buying only accounts for 20% of the results in the client accounts, and the content production is 80%. Why is this happening? Well, because the Meta AI is becoming so good that you can basically dump stuff into the ads manager, just let Meta do its thing, and as long as you have amazing content that you actually provide Meta, you will be successful. So if you have good content but shit media buying, you will be successful. But if you have amazing media buying and shit content, you will not succeed in eCom paid ads. And this pisses me off when I on YouTube search up SMMA service delivery. Every single video out there is on the technical media buying aspects, which is such a small part of actually delivering results. Just look it up yourself, search up SMMA service delivery on YouTube and see what the people are teaching. Basically, nobody is talking about the content production. It's just like a small side note they maybe have at the end of their video. So let's jump into it. I will teach you exactly how to produce amazing content for your paid ads. And by content, I mean the videos, the still images, and the ad copy. So let's go through some fundamental principles, what you have to keep in mind when you are producing content for your clients. The first and the most important thing is volume. In creative development, volume is everything. I recommend starting by producing 3 unique concepts with 3 variations each per client every single week. So this is what one unique concept looks like. This is an ad we made for a client just now recently for 4th of July. This is one concept with 3 different variations. So it's the exact same ad, but it just looks slightly different to test a couple different variations of the same idea. So we would produce 3 batches like this one for every single client every single week. And with time, you should of course scale this up based on the signals you see in the account. If you see that the account is quickly burning through content, it's quickly fatiguing, then it makes sense to ramp that up. But 3 unique concepts with 3 variations per week is a good place to start. Next fundamental principle is speed. You want a weekly creative development cadence. So on Monday, you want to be launching new ads, then you give them 4 to 5 days to actually run and collect data. And then on Thursday or Friday, it depends on when you have enough data, you conclude the test and initiate new creatives. Then throughout the weekend, you develop the new creatives, then you launch them on Monday, and the cycle continues. You don't want to be launching new ads every second week or every month. You want to be launching ads every single week. This will give you such a huge advantage over other agencies and will immediately skyrocket the results you deliver for clients. It is that simple. Just going back to the basics, delivering a lot of content and delivering it quickly. Next, you want to build your creative development system as a factory. You want it to look like an assembly line. Imagine an assembly line for cars where everything everything is standardized. Each piece of content goes through a certain set of steps. You don't want to wing it from week to week, just kind of sitting down and doing whatever. You want to have a super standardized process for how you actually analyze data, how you select winners, and how you develop new ads. So have proper systems, have defined ownership, which means that every single person in the system should know exactly what they own in the system, and you have to have predictable development. Next, we have this whole concept of angles versus concepts, no pun intended. Every single ad has two fundamental main attributes. That's the angle and that's the concept of the ad. The angle is the most fundamental part of an ad, and it is how you present why someone should buy the product. So let's say you have a product that aims at giving older people better health. The angle could be look younger, it could be feel healthier, it could be play with your grandchildren. There are tons of angles you can use to promote such a product, and as I said, this is the most fundamental, the most basic part of an ad, and this is the first thing you want to nail in your ads. If you have an amazing angle, everything else can be pretty shitty, but if you hit the right angle, you will be successful with your paid ads. And as I said, when you nail the angle, the rest becomes easy. Then you have the concept, and the concept is basically just how you present the angle. I have an entire cheat sheet for these concepts. Let me show you. You have us versus them ads. So let's say you have defined an angle which is look healthier. You then do an us versus them ad comparing yourself to competitors. You have before and after ads, super simple, showing what before having the product looks like versus what life looks like after buying the product. Then you have listicles, just giving tons of like bullet points why someone should buy the product. You have USP callouts. Just use this cheat sheet. I'm not going to go through every single ad, but super easy way to find new concepts. So these are the fundamentals. Let's jump into how you actually develop the content. And the first part is to do creative analysis. So before you actually begin producing anything, you want to be making data-backed decisions. So you want the data to know exactly what to test and have some kind of hypothesis for why you are testing that specific thing. So what is creative analysis specifically? It is the process of defining which angles and which concepts you want to be testing, which should be based on both data and your experience. So there are two types of creative analysis. One you do when you onboard new clients. You only do it once to have a clear understanding of this client's product, and then you want to be doing creative analysis every single week to actually create iterations and create net new concepts. So let me show you the onboarding creative strategy one pager we use at my agency. It looks like this. May look a bit complicated right now, but once you actually get into it, it's not that difficult. Super simple. You just go through and fill out these bullet points. You fill out about the brand, how is the product made, the details of the offer, the product details, every single thing you need to understand about this product to then be able to create ads. This should take you like max 30 minutes to fill out once you onboard new clients. But as I said, this will be immensely valuable when you actually go to develop the ads. Then you have the weekly creative analysis. This one is even simpler. It's formatted as this kind of table. So you add every single client you have down here. Then you just go into their ad accounts. You look at what is working. You add notes, you add learnings, you decide which iterations you want to work on. You define which losers you have in the account. So stuff you don't want to continue testing and stuff you want to turn off in the ad account. Then you create net new briefing ideas and add the average KPIs. So super simple. Just fill this out every single week on Monday and create new content based on that. Let's keep rolling. Next is how you actually produce the static content. So you have two different types of content. You have just image ads and then you have video ads. So how do you produce the image ads? Again, there are two ways of developing image ads, and this goes for both video as well, which is net new concepts and iterations. So net new concepts are completely new ideas that have not been tested in the account before. It's completely new stuff, while iterations is when you just take something that is already working, making slight tweaks and launching that. Let's start with the net new stuff. This should be based on your previously completed onboarding one-pager. So this thing, you go in, you analyze the offer, you analyze the product, and you just have to be creative and come up with new, unique ideas for how to actually position the product. The angles, remember, the most fundamental part of the ad is the angle. I recommend using Figma for designing those ads. With time, you will have a graphic designer, a copywriter, all of these roles the way I have in my agency now. But for now, you will be the one making the ads. So how do you actually produce those ads? Well, when you first have an idea, so let's say you have defined an angle and a concept, don't overthink it. Just boot up Figma and begin producing the angles with the concepts you have defined. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to be a professional graphic designer to make this work. In most cases, ugly ads actually perform better. And remember, the only way you'll get better is by doing. So don't spend hours on YouTube learning about Figma and learning about like graphic design principles. Just get to it, boot up Figma, begin producing ads. You already have those templates that I've provided you for the different concepts, so just copy those. Remember to use the client's font and colors to keep it all cohesive, and to use the client's brand guidelines. And the format you want to be using here is 1080 by 1920, but keep the content in a 4:5 safe zone. So remember, on some placements, Meta will crop in the ads from the top and the bottom. So you want to make sure that all of the actual content is within a 4:5 frame within the 1080 by 1920 ad, so that everything fits nicely, so that it doesn't crop any text or any of the important information. So just use safe zones in Figma. Next, we have the iterations, and this should be about 70 to 80% of the content production in your accounts. You want to always first focus on just taking what's working and doing more of that, because you don't need to test net new concepts when you already have a proven concept. The way you do this is based on your creative analysis. So this document we've put together, you go through, you do this analysis, and it will pretty quickly become clear what is working, what is not. So you take what is working, and based on that, you create iterations with different concepts. So you take the winning angle, let's say it is look healthier or play with your grandchildren, and then you try a new concept with that exact same angle. So if us versus them worked, try a before and after ad. Then you can also find new ways to present the winning angle in the same concept. So if you don't have any more concepts to test, use the same angle, use the same concept, but use different wording, use different USPs, or use a different product image or a completely different product. So if the client has several products that hit the same ICP, you can test different products through the winning angle and through the winning concept. The production here, again, super simple. Just duplicate the ad you're making iterations of in Figma and do the changes. If it's the concept, change the concept. If it's just a wording change, change the wording. With time, you also want to build up a template library. So every time you produce a new concept, add it to a separate Figma file. With time, you will have a huge library that you can just later copy from and change the text or the font or the colors on to create new ads. Remember, this is not supposed to be exclusive to any specific client. So you don't want to have a library for every single client. Just have a big library of all of the concepts you have created, and then you can use them for all of your other clients and all of your new clients. This will streamline the process immensely. Next, we have the video production flying through here. The first fundamentals you have to understand in video production is that this is much more resource intensive to produce than static images, but usually has a higher hit rate. So a bigger percentage of your creatives will actually be winners. But remember, for some clients, video doesn't work at all. So if you have tested videos for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's still not working, maybe this is just a client where video doesn't work. So just focus 100% of your time on the static production. We have a couple different types of videos. The first one is UGC videos. This is also a great way to upsell clients as well. We charge $600 per video in my agency. So on top of the retainer and on top of the performance we are already charging, we also charge $600 per video. And the way this works is that you find a creator, someone willing to film the video, you create a brief, they film it, you receive the content, you edit the content, and then you actually launch it in Facebook. So this is what a UGC video looks like. This is a video we just produced for one of our clients.
30 boss thing set.
So as you can see, it's super simple. We created a brief. We told this person exactly what to say. We sent them the product, and then they ended up filming, and we did all of the editing with the captions, the cuts, the animations, all of that good stuff. The next type of video we have is an AI UGC video. So it uses B-roll, but it uses AI voiceover. So you don't actually have to go through this whole process of developing UGC videos, finding creators, all of that stuff. If you already have B-roll, you just create AI voiceover using 11 Labs, add that over, and suddenly you have a video. So the way this works is that you create a brief, you produce the content with AI voiceover and stock footage, then edit it again. This is what we have created for Birdie Boss, the same client, and this is then with AI voiceover.
Calling. And this season demands more than just showing up. It's time to bring your A game, starting with gear that stands out.
As you can see, we received tons of content from the client, different B-roll. So we just went through, created some AI voiceover, and boom, we have a video developed. And lastly, and the easiest to produce video is just a text overlay video. So you just add some text on top of the B-roll of the product. This takes the least time, but also has the lowest hit rate because it's the easiest to produce. So it looks something like this. You just have text on top, and then you have some music playing in the background, some USB callouts. Super simple to produce and allows you to produce much more content, but as I said, usually has a slightly lower hit rate than the other types of videos. Then we have completely net new ideas. How do you actually make up net new ideas, and how do you produce those? It's the same as with statics. Generate completely new ideas from the onboarding one-pager. This one-pager is super, super important, so make sure that you are thorough with it when you are filling it out, when the client is being onboarded. Then use CapCut to edit and add text. Easiest program out there. And again, use 1920 by 1080, keeping the text and the main content within the 4:5 safe zone. So exactly the same as with the static images. Lastly, iterations. And again, it's the same as with the statics. It's based on your weekly analysis. So duplicate the existing CapCut projects you have and do the changes. It could be a wording change, it could be a music change, it could be a hook change, depending on what kind of iteration you are doing. I have this cheat sheet for iterations, so take a screenshot and use this when you are creating iterations for your videos. You can change the hook text, you can change the hook visual, you can change the voiceover, like use another voice, for example. You can add winning hooks from other ads. You get the point. I'm not going to go through this entire list, but just use this sheet, select one of them, and create iterations in this way. This is the way we produce content at my agency for our client, that again has allowed us to scale up to $700,000 to $800,000 a month in spend managed by the client. How do we actually go about distributing it? So the media buying, the less important part, but still you should have a good grasp of how you actually do the technical stuff in the ads manager to make sure that the content is being used as effectively as possible. So let's start with the fundamentals, with the account structure. So on Meta, it looks like this. You have an ads manager, which is basically just the account you are running the ads from. Then you have campaigns. Under the campaigns, you have different ad sets, which is just basically like a folder of different ads. And within those ad sets, you have a basically unlimited amount of ads. An important distinction to make here is that you have two different types of budget optimization. So you can set the budget on the campaign level, and then Meta will itself distribute the budget to the different ad sets. This is called a CBO. Or you can give each ad set a specific budget, and then it's going to automatically distribute the budget to the different ads, which is called an ABO. I'm going to get into which one you should use for the different use cases in a second, but just keep that in mind. There are two different ways of actually setting the budget on Meta, a CBO and an ABO. So how do we go about testing? I'm first going to explain the testing, then the scaling, then the metrics and KPIs you should be looking at. So the testing stuff. First of all, again, some fundamental principles. I really, really want you to understand the fundamental principles behind running ads, because if you understand those, the rest really becomes irrelevant, because it's all just a logical chain you have to understand. So important for us to go through these fundamental principles. The first one is that in testing, every ad should get a set budget. So use ABO. This is fundamentally about risk management. Every new test you launch is a risk, and you want to get as much data as possible from every risk, because the ad could be a loser, and if it doesn't generate any sales, you have lost money. So in that sense, every single new test you run in your ads manager is a risk. And if you test in a CBO, meaning you set the budget on the campaign level, Meta will usually give the top 1 to 2 ad sets about 90% of the budget. So this way you're not learning anything about the other ads. You might have an amazing ad that has a great watch time, that has a great CTR, that has a great CPM, but it has a weak hook, so it has a low hook rate. In this scenario, Meta will give this ad basically zero spend because the hook rate is low, but just changing the hook on this ad would give you a new winner. So by actually forcing Meta to spend money on every single ad, you're able to see these patterns, and an ad that is maybe a loser in the first round of testing could become a winner by doing a simple change. So by using ABO and forcing Meta to actually spend money on the different ads, you will get much more data for the same amount of dollars spent on the test. So use ABO for testing. Remember that performance varies based on time of week, day of week, recent changes in the financial markets. There are like thousands, maybe even millions of different things that could affect how your ads are performing. So what didn't work today might work in 3 months. So I recommend that in about 3 months, go back, look at stuff that didn't work then, but that you still believe in, and retest it. It's that easy. You don't have to produce new ads. You can just retest what didn't work previously, and sometimes you will find winners that way, because as I said, what didn't work now might work in the future. Next, do not test in dynamic creatives. You want complete control over what Meta shows. So a dynamic creative is where Meta can adjust how the ad looks to every single person, and it doesn't really actually give you a test, because Meta is personalizing the ad to every single person. So it's showing different stuff to every single person. So you're not actually testing a specific ad, you're testing thousands of different elements, and you don't want to do that. So never use dynamic creatives. Always just give Meta the headlines, the descriptions, the product images, all that stuff, but don't allow it to do these automatic changes. Next, always exclude warm audiences, so page view and purchases from prospecting testing. So when you are testing prospecting audiences, which are cold audiences, people who have not heard about your brand before, make sure to exclude people who have been on your page and who have purchased previously, because if you have those people in your prospecting testing, the data will be diluted, because those people already know about your brand and will convert at a higher level than completely cold audiences. So make sure that when you are testing prospecting, you are testing prospecting, and when you are testing retargeting, you are testing retargeting. So in retargeting, exclude cold audiences and only target those people that have already been on the page and that have already purchased the product previously. So again, a super fundamental part of running ads. You have 2 different types of audiences: people who have not seen your product before and people who have. Next, use one testing campaign. So you only want to have one campaign for testing, and then I'll get into the scaling in a second, but when you find winners, you put them in a separate scaling campaign. And the higher the budget, the more testing you have to do. As I mentioned previously with the creative development, start with 3 unique concepts with 3 variations per week. And then when you are ramping up the spend, also ramp up the content production. It will become pretty clear in the account if your content volume is lacking and if you are burning through the content quicker than you're able to produce it. Lastly, use broad targeting. Like a year and a half ago, using interest was the go-to way to run ads on Meta, setting like specific interests, people interested in dogs, people who have kids, stuff like that. Now broad is the way to go, because the Meta AI has become so good that it's going to be much better than you at finding the winning audiences. So just use broad targeting and allow Meta to find those winning audiences itself. I've already kind of touched in on this, but prospecting versus remarketing, always always start by building your prospecting audience. So you want to have a big audience of people that have not seen your product that you have then forced onto your website. And once you have spent above 10K USD in the account, you can begin looking at remarketing to that audience. So you just begin hitting those same people with ads over and over and over again until they actually end up buying. Now, how do we structure the testing in the account, like completely technically? Well, as I said, we want to have one testing campaign, and under there for each unique concept, we want to have a separate ad set. So if you produce 3 unique concepts with 3 ad variations per week, you want to have 3 new ad sets that are being launched in this testing campaign every single week. So you have the unique concept as an ad set, and then the 3 different variations as ads in that specific ad set. Again, remember to use A, B, O when testing, and your budget here should depend on your target CPA. So let's say you want to be getting purchases at $40 per purchase. Let's say it's a $120 product. You want a 3x ROAS, which means that you should be getting purchases at $40. Your budget should then be 1 times your target CPA per day. So if your target CPA is $40, then the daily ad budget should also be $40 for every single one of these ad sets. Then how do we actually determine if an ad is a winner or a loser? We've launched it, it's used some money. How do we determine if it moves on to the scaling or if it is being left behind? Well, it's very simple. If it spends 3 times the CPA with no purchases, it is a loser. So in this case, if the target CPA is $40, the ad has spent $120 and gotten 0 purchases, it is a loser. You turn it off and you don't move it to scaling. Well, if it has gotten purchases and it keeps getting purchases at those $40, it is a winner, and you can move it over to the scaling, which we are getting into now. So again, some fundamental principles here. First of all, never change evergreen ads with social proof. So when you are running ads on Meta, people will like those ads, they will comment on those ads, they will share those ads, which will generate social proof on those ads. So when you are scrolling in your Facebook algorithm, you see that every single post has, I don't know, 10 likes, 100 likes, 1,000 likes. That is called social proof, which boosts the performance of the ad. And doing any changes to the ad, changing the copy or changing the image, will completely reset that social proof. It will wipe it and it will start from 0, which will most likely kill the ad. Social proof is very important. So if you need to make changes to an ad, let's say the client changed the price of something, launch a new ad and slowly phase it in, but never do hard changes on existing ads. The idea in scaling is to let winners compete in a sort of battle royale in a CBO. So you give the campaign a specific budget, you dump all the winning ads in this campaign, and then Meta will distribute the budget to the winning ads. And in that way, you'll get the most bang for your buck. Once you've actually defined that an ad is a winner, you then want Meta to kind of take over the budget distribution and begin spreading the budget to the ads that are actually performing the best. With time, ads die out. Remember this, when you find a winning ad, it's not going to be a winning ad for 2 or 3 years. Sometimes it's a winning ad for 2 weeks, sometimes 2 months, but it will eventually die out. And once they begin underperforming for 7 days, it has died out. So just turn it off and keep testing new ads. So what is the structure of the scaling campaign? Well, again, just have one scaling campaign. You don't want to have a ton of scaling campaigns. This should be a CBO where the budget is defined on the campaign level. And remember to use a separate scaling campaign for prospecting and remarketing. So I just said that you should have only one campaign, but one scaling campaign for prospecting and one scaling campaign for remarketing. And again, remember to exclude warm audiences from prospecting. So if you have a scaling prospecting campaign, remember to exclude people who have already been on your page and already purchased your products. The way we structure this is that we have what we call winner stacks. So each ad set is a winner stack, and in there you put your winner ads up to 10 ads. Once you have more than 10 ads in an ad set, the algorithm gets a little bit confused. It's too many ads for it to handle and it begins distributing the budget poorly. So have one winner stack, fill it up with 10 winner ads. And if you have more winner ads, create a new winner stack and have a new ad set with then more ads. Next, the budget scaling. So how do you actually go about increasing the budget and spending more money on the winning ads? Well, every 3 days that you have stable results. So let's say the scaling campaign is running at $200 a day. It is delivering stable results. You are getting the CPA you want. Then after 3 days, you can bump the budgets by 20%, which in this case, if it's spending $200 a month, would be $40. So you would bump it up to $240. Then again, in 3 days, if it's still performing well, if it's still getting the desired CPA or the desired ROAS, you bump it again by 20%, which would give you $288, I think, if my math is correct. And then you just keep bumping it until the results begin dying out. There are also some other techniques for scaling. The first one is what I call a dupe scale. So you basically just duplicate the exact same ad set and give it a 3 times higher or 3 times lower budget. And this is a pretty complicated process, but point is that this unlocks new pockets. So the way Meta works is that it selects a small part of your audience and begins showing ads to that same small pocket of your audience, which could be like women aged 50 to 55 in the Maryland area that have kids that are married, like a super small little pocket. And it's not really going to go outside of that pocket once it has found a winning pocket. So to force it to actually go out there and begin looking for new winning audiences, you can dupe scale your ads. So you just duplicate the ad set, give it either a 3 times higher or a 3 times lower budget, and allow it in that way to go out and find new pockets and unlock new audiences. You can also duplicate the winner stack to an ASC plus campaign. So it's a different campaign type. You launch that Advantage Shopping Campaign Plus, you create that, you just put all the winner stacks in there and see how that performs. Then you can also test audiences. So I've told you to run broad so far, but if you have found winning ads, you can also test your way with new audiences. So actually telling Meta, okay, I want to target women, or I want to target men, I want to target dog lovers, I want to target grandmothers, stuff like that, just running that as a test. And lastly, testing cost cap. So this is a feature Meta has where you tell Meta, I don't want to spend more than, let's say, $15 to get a purchase. That is what's called a cost cap. And if Meta believes that it's not able to reach that CPA, it's just not going to bid. So it makes the spend a lot more volatile, but it also caps your results and basically ensures that you're not going to get more expensive purchases than what you are looking for. So it has both downsides and upsides, but it is worth testing as a way to scale the account. So the fundamental strategy here is to find winning ads and then test them through every possible Meta feature, which are these 4 main things. Lots of talking from my side. Let's get into the last part here, which is the metrics and the KPIs. So targets. How do you actually know what your target CPA is? Well, you have to have a clear target KPI with the client. So during the onboarding process, figure out exactly which kinds of numbers your client is aiming at. It could be a certain CPA, a ROAS, marketing efficiency ratio, which is MER. There are tons of different KPIs you can look at. It really depends on your client and what kind of numbers they are looking for in their business. So just have an open conversation about KPIs and set up a structure where you can scale infinitely as long as you hit the KPI. So the way it works in our agency is that we have an uncapped budget with our clients. We can spend $1 million a month on their Meta ads if we wanted to, as long as we hit the KPI. So as long as we keep it above, let's say, a 3.5 ROAS, and we can spend as much as we want on the ads, which is perfect for us because we have some performance incentives based on spend. So the more we spend, the more we earn, the more the client earns. Amazing setup. If you want to learn more about making offers, I have a video on that on my channel. In terms of scaling, with time, this KPI should be adjusted because the more money you spend, the lower the expected KPI is. So getting a 4x ROAS at 30K a month in spend is reasonable, but not when you get to, let's say, 300K a month because of this concept of scaling. So this is a pretty jagged explanation by me, but point is, this is the audience you reach by spending 30K a month. So the white bubble you have here, while the gray bubble is the audience you reach by spending 300K a month. So the way it works is that when you scale, you begin hitting a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger audience. You have more customers in that bigger audience, but you also have more irrelevant people. So let's say here, 1 in 10 people who see the ad actually ends up buying. That's not really like proper numbers, but let's just use it as a mental example. When you are spending 30K a month, 1 out of 10 people will end up buying your product. While when you begin scaling, you, as I said, begin hitting more and more irrelevant audiences. So it goes up to 1 of 50, and then 1 of 20, then 1 of 40, then 1 of 80, then 1 of 100. Yes, you begin hitting more customers, so your overall revenue is growing, but you have to show the ad to more people to find the next customer. So your KPI expectations should also go down, because Meta is a CPM platform. You pay for every single view, not for every single click. So the more people you show the ad to, the more money you will spend on Meta ads, and the higher your CPA will get. So just keep that in mind. When you begin scaling, you should have an honest conversation with your client about basically decreasing the KPI expectations. Lastly, attribution. Meta is known for over-reporting the results in the account. So you could have, for example, 150 purchases reported by Meta, but if you go into Shopify, you're only going to have like 100. So make sure to double check numbers with the client's backend weekly. You should get access to their WooCommerce or their Shopify account during the onboarding. Again, I have a whole video on onboarding if you want to check it out and figure out how to do the onboarding properly. And then just every week, make sure to double check the numbers, that you're not scaling when in reality they're getting, let's say, 50% less purchases than what you are expecting. So this is it. This is how you deliver amazing client results. This is how you go from charging clients $600 a month and spending $500 a month for every single client to managing close to $1 million a month in ad spend. I have put together this document I call a Meta Ads brain dump. This is a giant document. Let me actually show you. It contains every single thing I know about Meta ads. As you can see here, just on the table of contents, this is a beast of a document. Everything from how you test to how you scale, all the technical stuff. And I have given you the main points in this video, but if you want to deep dive, you can read this document. If you want access to this document, reach out to me on Instagram, DM me. I will send it over to you completely for free. If you are running a paid ads eCom agency that is stuck below 15K a month, I have good news for you. I have recently launched a private mentorship where I work with eCom paid ads agency owners like yourself, one-on-one, to scale you to 50K a month in 6 months, the way I did in my own agency. We're now at over 100K a month, but I did scale to 50K a month from 10K a month in only 6 months. So if that sounds interesting and intriguing, check out the 3-minute VSL. You will find a link down in the description. And again, if you're still interested, you can book in a call with me. It's going to be personally with me. No like external sales team, no heavy sales tactics, just a friendly chat to see if I can help you. So as I said, click the link, check out the VSL, and I'll see you on a call.